Your first day at a new job in Germany feels exciting until the meetings start. Fast English, professional jargon, awkward small talk in the break room. Suddenly you're wondering, do I sound confident enough? Too formal? Too quiet? If you're an international professional working or planning to work in Germany, this episode is for you. Today on Learn English Lab, you'll learn the real English used in offices, meetings, emails, presentations, and everyday workplace conversations. More importantly, you'll learn how to sound natural, professional, and confident in an international environment. Because success at work isn't only about your qualifications, it's about communication. And by the end of this episode, your English will feel a lot more ready for the career you've worked so hard to build.
It really is quite the journey, isn't it? Just stepping into that environment for the very first time.
Oh, absolutely.
There's this palpable shift in the air when you cross the threshold of an international corporate office in Frankfurt or Munich.
Yeah, and it's a shift that can, catch you completely off guard if you aren't prepared for it. So let's unpack this mission we have today.
Right. I think we really need to look at that fascinating intersection of professional English and the unique, highly structured culture of the German workplace.
Definitely. Because when you think about it, Germany is an absolute powerhouse. You have these massive global giants, right? Like BMW, Siemens, Bayer, Deutsche Bank, SAP.
The heavy hitters.
Yeah, alongside these incredibly vibrant, fast-moving startup ecosystems in places like Berlin and Munich, and of course, the famous Mittelstand.
Ah, yes, those highly specialized mid-sized companies.
Exactly. I mean, perfectly said. They secretly run the global supply chain, basically.
Yeah.
Every year, thousands of international professionals move there.
They do. But here's the catch, right?
What's that?
Just knowing basic English or even, holding a certificate in advanced conversational English is simply not enough to truly thrive in those offices.
Right, because the rules of the game are totally different.
What's fascinating here is that realization that language does not exist in a vacuum. You cannot just take the English you learned in a textbook and drop it unchanged into a conference room in Stuttgart.
Or even the English you used in a fast-paced office in New York or Dubai, right?
Spot on. You have to layer the specific nuances of German workplace culture over your professional English to actually succeed.
And we're talking about things like the profound focus on efficiency, the famous directness, the strict boundaries.
Yes, all of that. Because perfection, like having flawless grammar or an untraceable native accent, isn't the goal. The goal is clarity. The goal is respect.
I love that. Clarity and respect.
And those two concepts look entirely different depending on the cultural operating system running in the background.
That is such a comforting thought for anyone listening right now who might be feeling a bit overwhelmed by it all. We aren't aiming for flawless.
Not at all.
We're aiming for functional, respectful, and crystal clear. And to get there, well, we need to start at the very beginning of the workday.
The morning routine.
Yes. Before you write a single line of code, before you balance a spreadsheet, you have to walk through the door and greet your team.
Which can be a minefield in itself.
Oh, totally. We really need to establish the baseline social dynamics of the German office. Because honestly, the culture shock can hit you before you even sit at your desk.
It really can.
Let me give you an analogy. Think about an American office greeting. You walk in, and it is like a high-energy fireworks display.
Lots of volume, lots of smiles.
Yeah. Someone sees you by the elevator, and it's, hey, oh my goodness, how are you? Did you see the game? How was your weekend? Oh, I love those shoes.
It's a lot to process at 8:30 in the morning.
It really is. It requires a massive amount of emotional output right away. Now, compare that to the German greeting. The German greeting is more like a calm, firm, reassuring handshake.
Let's dissect the psychology behind that calmer energy, because it's important. The morning in a German office is measured and professional.
And I think some expats misinterpret this calmness as coldness, right? Or disapproval.
Without a doubt. They walk in with that fireworks energy, give a booming hello, get a calm, quiet response in return, and immediately wonder, is my team mad at me?
Did I do something wrong yesterday?
Exactly, or rather, absolutely. But they aren't mad. It is simply that the morning is for focusing, for transitioning from the personal realm into the work mindset.
So it's actually about respect.
Strictly about respect. A calm, professional greeting is the ultimate sign of respect for that shared focus. You aren't forcing your colleagues to manage your emotional energy before they've even opened their emails.
That makes a lot of sense. It's almost a physiological relief once you get used to it. You don't have to perform happiness first thing in the morning.
You just have to be present and polite.
So what does that actually sound like in English? You want to use phrases that are natural but not overwhelming. Things like Good morning, everyone, said to the room as you walk in.
Simple, clear.
Right. Or, morning. Hope you had a good weekend. If you're speaking to a specific colleague you work closely with, maybe, hi, Thomas, ready for the busy week.
Or good morning, Sarah. How are you getting on with the project?
Yeah, you are acknowledging them, but you aren't demanding a biography of their last 48 hours.
Notice the structural boundaries in those phrases. You are acknowledging the person, offering a polite wish for their week, or inquiring gently about their current work.
You are simply establishing contact.
Right. You can practice this out loud at home. Good morning. Hope you had a good week. It is simple, it is professional, and it is absolutely spot on for the environment.
You are signaling, I see you, I respect you, and I am ready to work.
Perfectly stated.
But I imagine this calm approach bleeds into small talk too. My instinct as an American is to fill any silence with chatter.
Because silence feels awkward to you.
Totally awkward. We think asking, how are the kids? How's the mortgage rate treating you? Is how we show we are friendly.
But in Frankfurt or Berlin, asking about someone's personal life on day 2 is a massive faux pas.
So the art of small talk there must be, well, incredibly brief.
Extremely brief and highly regulated by invisible social boundaries. German professionals generally prefer to discuss real, substantial topics rather than just filling silence.
Right, they value their time.
And they respect your time enough not to waste it. However, it's a myth that small talk doesn't exist at all.
Really? Where does it happen?
You will encounter it at the coffee machine, waiting in the elevator, or in those awkward 3 minutes before a digital meeting officially kicks off.
While you wait for the last person to join the call.
Yes.
Which means we need an arsenal of safe topics ready to go, so we don't accidentally ask something overly intrusive.
Safe topics seem to be things that are universally observable or strictly related to the shared environment.
The weather is the classic safe harbor in any language, of course.
Always. Or a recent company news item like, did you see the CEO's email about the new office layout?
A shared project update works too. Or sports, particularly football. And by football, we mean soccer, naturally.
Weekend plans work wonderfully as well, provided they are kept brief and surface level.
Surface level being the key word there.
Right. If someone asks about your weekend, you might say, I visited the old town in Regensburg, it was beautiful, and then ask about theirs.
You don't launch into a 20-minute saga about your train being delayed, your hotel losing your reservation, and having a fight with your partner.
Please don't. Keep it light. Keep it moving.
And the topics to avoid.
In early professional relationships, you must strictly avoid personal finances, politics, religion, and details about your relationship status or family issues.
The boundary between public and private life is heavily guarded.
Extremely so.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because this is where a lot of international workers hit a wall. If we avoid all those personal details early on, doesn't the relationship feel a bit robotic?
How do you mean?
Well, if I can't ask my coworker about their political views or their kids, how do we actually connect as human beings? It feels like you're just existing as cogs in a machine.
That is a very common anxiety, but it reveals a fundamental difference in how cultures build trust.
Okay, tell me more.
In many cultures, especially in the Americas or parts of the Middle East and Southern Europe, we build trust through personal intimacy.
Right, we share secrets, personal stories.
And that vulnerability creates a bond that allows us to work together. We become friends so that we can be colleagues.
Yeah, that's sense.
But in Germany, the polarity is completely reversed. Trust is built through professional reliability first.
Oh, wow. So the work comes first.
Yes, you prove that you are competent, that you meet your deadlines, that you communicate clearly, and that you are honest in your work.
And then what?
Once that professional trust is solidified, which can take months, the personal intimacy follows. They are not robots. They simply require you to prove you are a reliable colleague before they invite you to be a friend.
That reframing takes so much pressure off. You don't have to win a popularity contest on your first week.
You just have to be good at your job and polite.
Which brings us to a critical moment.
Yeah.
The perfect professional introduction. When you are on your first day, sitting in that circle, how do you introduce yourself?
In a way that strikes that balance between professional competence and approachable humanity.
Yeah, because there is actually a foolproof formula for this.
There is, and it works beautifully. It goes like this. Your name plus your role plus what you are working on plus one genuine detail.
Let's look at an example. Imagine a new employee named Priya. She's sitting in her first marketing meeting.
Okay, how does she introduce herself?
She might say, "Hi, I'm Priya. I just joined the marketing team as a content strategist. I'll be focusing mainly on the European campaigns."
Good. Very clear so far.
And then she adds, "I'm originally from India, but I've been in Germany for about 6 months, and I am still trying to figure out the public transport system."
That is fantastic. Let's analyze the mechanics of why that introduction is so effective. She gives her name and her role content strategist.
And she gives her focus European campaigns.
That satisfies the German need for clarity and function. They immediately know where she fits into the organizational machine.
They know accurately why she's in the room, but it's that final, genuine detail that makes her a three-dimensional person.
Still figuring out the public transport system, it's such a great little addition.
It really is.
It shows a vital trait, humility. It is slightly self-deprecating, but in a very safe, relatable way.
Because everyone in Germany, native or expat, knows the public transport system can be frustratingly complex at times.
Right. It invites a warm, knowing smile from the room without oversharing any deeply personal baggage.
Furthermore, it provides the perfect conversational hook for a future piece of small talk.
Yes. The next time she is at the coffee machine, a colleague can easily say, "So, Priya, did you manage to navigate the U-Bahn today?" It builds a bridge.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Now that you've navigated the morning, greeted your team, and nailed your introduction, it's time to actually get to work.
Finally.
And to do the work, you need the right tools. In an international office, those tools are specific vocabulary words.
But we aren't going to just read down a list of boring flashcards, are we?
No way. Memorizing a dictionary won't help you if you don't know how to deploy these words. We need to understand the context of the corporate battlefield.
Context is everything. Words are mechanisms. Let's look at the lexicon of execution, starting with the vocabulary surrounding meetings and deadlines.
Because in an environment that prizes efficiency, the language you use must be razor sharp.
Absolutely. Let's imagine you are stepping into a massive software rollout for a client.
Okay, the very first thing you need is the agenda. It isn't just a casual list, it's the strict roadmap for the meeting.
Right. You might ask, could you share the agenda before the meeting?
By asking this, you are showing that you respect the structural integrity of the time you're about to spend together. Next, you encounter the stakeholders.
This is a massive concept.
It really is. Tell us about stakeholders.
The word stakeholder gets thrown around a lot in global business, but in a German engineering or corporate firm, a stakeholder isn't just someone who casually cares about the project.
Right, they're individuals who hold influence and often veto power.
Yes. Keeping stakeholders aligned is practically a religion. If you don't align your stakeholders early, they will freeze your workflow at the final hurdle.
So the term is fundamentally about risk mitigation.
Spot on.
Then you have minutes. And note, this is always plural in this context. It isn't about time.
No, it is the written official record of what was discussed and decided. Like, I'll circulate the minutes by end of day.
And derived directly from those minutes, you have action items. These aren't just vague ideas.
They are the specific assigned tasks someone legally or professionally agrees to complete.
Now, we must discuss time. Because German work culture respects time on a profound level, the vocabulary surrounding it is highly specific.
There is a strict, non-negotiable difference between a deadline, a milestone, and a buffer.
Okay, so a deadline is the absolute final date, Friday at 5 p.m. It is binary, you either hit it or you fail.
And a milestone is a key achievement point along the way, like finishing the first prototype or completing the beta testing.
But the concept of a buffer is where the cultural psychology really shines through.
How's it?
A buffer is extra time intentionally built into a plan to allow for inevitable delays. You might say in a planning meeting, I'd suggest adding a 2-day buffer before the client delivery.
Yes.
What I love about this is that it acknowledges human error and systemic friction. It doesn't rely on blind optimism.
A buffer plans for disaster.
It is literally an engineering mindset applied to scheduling. You don't build a bridge to accurately hold the weight of one car. You build in a buffer so it can hold 10.
Perfectly analogous. Moving out of the meeting room and into the inbox, email culture has its own specific vocabulary.
Right, you need to know phrases like follow-up, to send a subsequent message checking on progress.
And loop in, which is a slightly informal but highly common way to say you are adding someone to the conversation to give them visibility.
Like, could you loop in Marcus on this thread?
Yes. And touch base. To contact someone briefly for a status update, let's touch base on Monday morning to see where the numbers are.
But within emails, you also must strictly understand the political difference between CC and BCC.
This is a big one.
CC is carbon copy. You are keeping someone in the loop so everyone sees they're there. It's transparent.
And BCC is blind carbon copy. You use this to send the email to someone without the other recipients knowing.
Using BCC incorrectly or using it to sneakily tattle on a colleague to a manager can cause massive trust issues in a German office.
Because it violates that core tenet of transparency.
Transparency is paramount.
Let's look at the vocabulary of projects and productivity. This is where the language becomes surprisingly physical.
Like the word bandwidth.
Exactly, or rather, definitely. This means your available time and mental energy. You might say, I would love to help with the new marketing push, but I simply don't have the bandwidth this week.
I find the use of bandwidth absolutely fascinating. We borrowed a term from telecommunications and radio frequencies, and we applied it to human cognition.
It's quite poetic in a corporate way.
It implies that human energy is a measurable, finite resource that must be managed, protected, and allocated responsibly.
Contrast that with the hustle culture you see in other parts of the world, where energy is treated as an infinite resource you can just tap into by drinking more coffee.
Using bandwidth acknowledges human limits.
That is a very astute observation. Following that mechanical theme, you have the deliverable, which is the specific, tangible result or document you must produce.
You also have a KPI, standing for a key performance indicator, a highly measurable value showing how well you're achieving a business goal.
And then you have the bottleneck.
A bottleneck is a point in a process where things slow down because of a systemic problem.
The legal approval process is our biggest bottleneck right now.
Again, look at the physical imagery. The vocabulary treats the office workflow like plumbing or a highly calibrated factory assembly line. Everything must flow.
And when things aren't flowing, team communication becomes critical. Offering and asking for help gracefully has its own set of required phrases.
Right. If you want to offer help, you keep it professional. Do you need a hand with that? Or let me know if there's anything I can take off your plate this week.
Yeah.
And asking for help. Could you walk me through this software tool? I'm not quite grasping it.
But within this team dynamic, there is one crucial phrase that acts as an emergency brake. To flag that.
Yes. I wanted to flag that we might need more time on the design phase, or I need to flag a potential issue with the budget.
To flag something means to proactively draw attention to a potential disaster before it actually happens.
It isn't complaining, it is highly valued because it mitigates risk. You're being a good custodian of the project.
Finally, we must touch on HR terminology because navigating your employment status requires precision.
Onboarding is the formal process of getting a new hire settled into the company's systems and culture.
And the probationary period, known as Probezeit in German, is a very real, usually 3 to 6 month phase where both you and the company evaluate the fit.
It is much easier to part ways during this time, so performance is critical.
Then there is the annual review, a formal, documented yearly meeting about your performance and salary.
And remote or hybrid work, which has become an entrenched standard in Germany, meaning splitting your working days between your home office and the corporate building.
Look at the undeniable pattern across all this vocabulary. Words like buffer, bottleneck, bandwidth, flag in an issue, aligning stakeholders.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this lexicon reveals a culture obsessed with process optimization, risk mitigation, and protecting human energy.
You aren't just memorizing English words, you are downloading the structural mindset of German commerce.
Which serves as the perfect bridge to our next core topic. Knowing the vocabulary is entirely useless if you do not understand the cultural rules governing when and how to use those words.
You can have the perfect sentence, but if you deliver it with the wrong cultural timing, it fails.
Let's dive deep into the cultural operating system of the German office. And we must begin with the most famous and perhaps most feared trait.
Punctuality.
Punctuality in Germany is not just about being polite. It isn't a suggestion. It is respect in action. Time is not viewed as a loose, flexible guideline like it is in some Mediterranean or Latin American cultures.
It is a fundamental expression of respect for the organization, the project, and most importantly, your colleagues' lives.
The rule of thumb in a German corporate setting is incredibly strict. 9.58 is on time for a 10:0 a.m. meeting.
So 10.0 is technically late.
Yes, because you are still settling into your chair or loading your software when the meeting should be beginning.
and arriving at 10.05 without any prior notice.
That is deeply disrespectful. It implies your time is somehow more valuable than everyone else's time combined.
Wow. And it applies to everything, right? Internal meetings, client calls, submitting deliverables.
Yes.
But look, life happens. Trains are delayed, the S-Bahn breaks down,
Yeah.
traffic is terrible.
Of course.
But there is a very specific protocol for running late. You do not just show up sweating at 10.10, burst through the door, and apologize profusely for 5 minutes, disrupting whatever's happening.
You communicate immediately.
Right. The second you know you are delayed, you send a brief, honest message to the organizer. Hi, everyone. Running 5 minutes late due to a transport issue. Please start without me.
Let's focus on that last sentence. Please start without me. That is vital.
Why is that part so important?
You are giving the room permission to protect their own time, even if you are delayed. It shows you value their collective efficiency over your own individual presence.
That is so deeply ingrained. But setting those scheduling buffers and respecting timelines is impossible if you don't know how to communicate when things go wrong.
And that leads us to direct communication. Clarity over comfort.
Germany is famous for its no culture.
Yes, Germans do not use fluffy words like maybe or I'll try my best or we'll see to soften a no.
In many global cultures, directness is seen as aggressive or rude. If a manager asks if an impossible project will be done by Friday, and you know for a fact it won't be, in some cultures you might say, we will do our absolute best, it's going to be tight, we'll see how it goes.
You are trying to save face.
Right. But in Germany, that ambiguity creates chaos. They want the truth, regardless of how uncomfortable it is.
A German professional will simply look at the manager and say, the timeline is not realistic, it will not be done by Friday.
Okay, but let's pause here.
Yeah.
What does this mean for an international worker coming from a culture where saying no to a boss is completely taboo?
Where pushing back is seen as literal insubordination.
Yeah, for a lot of people listening, looking a manager in the eye and saying, no, that won't happen, feels like a quick way to get fired.
You have to fundamentally reframe directness in your own mind. In Germany, directness is not rudeness, it is the ultimate form of efficiency.
So your boss actually expects you to push back if they suggest something impossible.
Yes, because if you say yes to an impossible task just to be polite, and then you fail to deliver on Friday, you have jeopardized the entire project and lied to the stakeholders.
But recognizing the discomfort expats feel, there's protective phrasing you can use to soften the blow while maintaining that necessary clarity.
Protective phrasing is key.
Give us some examples of how to push back safely.
You can say, I want to be transparent, I think we need to reconsider this timeline. Or, my honest assessment is that the budget needs adjustment before we proceed.
Or, if a manager suggests a new feature,
I'd like to respectfully push back on this idea. Here's my reasoning based on the data.
I want to be transparent. That is a brilliant piece of linguistic armor.
It frames your disagreement not as a personal attack on the boss's idea, but as a dedicated service to the company's clarity.
You are aligning yourself with their core value of honesty.
Spot on. You are saying, I am so committed to the success of this project that I'm willing to have an uncomfortable conversation with you. That earns immense respect.
That structural respect for boundaries brings us to a topic the rest of the world desperately needs to learn from: work-life balance.
The boundaries here are legendary.
Logging off at 5:30 p.m. without an ounce of guilt. Taking your full lunch break away from your desk. The 25 to 30 days of annual leave, your Urlaub, that you are fully expected, even pressured to use.
Ignoring after-hours emails entirely.
The boundary between personal and professional life in Germany isn't just a cultural preference, is it?
No, it is backed by formidable labor laws and deeply embedded in the societal structure. If your manager emails you at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, they likely do not expect an answer until the next morning.
And if they do expect an immediate answer,
you are either an executive on call or you are in a highly unusual, non-traditional workplace that is violating standard German working norms. There are even laws regarding the required rest period between the end of one shift and the beginning of another.
I like to compare the German work-life boundary to a physical firewall on a computer network.
A firewall, I like that.
Yeah, a firewall is designed with strict protocols to protect the core system from being corrupted by outside elements. In this analogy, your personal life, your family time, your physical health, your rest, that is the core system.
And the workplace, with its stress and demands, is the outside network.
Exactly. I mean, perfectly said. The strict boundaries aren't there because Germans hate working. In fact, their productivity levels are incredibly high. The boundaries are there to protect the human being so that when they are at work, they can operate at absolute maximum efficiency.
You do not bleed your work stress onto your family at the dinner table.
And conversely, you do not bleed your personal drama onto your colleagues at the office.
The firewall analogy works perfectly, but let's push it a step further. A firewall doesn't just block bad actors. It operates on clear, explicit rules.
Right.
You can vocalize these rules in the office. You can simply say to a colleague, I'll need to head out at 5:30 today, but I'll pick this up first thing tomorrow morning.
Notice what is missing there.
Yeah.
No elaborate excuses. No long stories about needing to pick up your dog from the vet or having a sudden headache.
Professional, clear, done. The boundary is respected without question.
Okay, all of this theory is great. We understand the mindset, but how does this actually look when you are in the trenches?
When you are sitting in the conference room or typing the email and the pressure is on.
Let's analyze some real, highly specific scenarios and the traps that catch expats every single day. Let's start with scenario 1. Joining a mid-project meeting.
Okay, set the scene.
You are a new hire, and you step into a project that has already been moving for a month. How do you ask for context efficiently without dragging the whole meeting to a halt and annoying the team?
The key here is demonstrating that you have already done your homework. You do not walk into that room, sit down, and ask, so what's going on with this project?
Because that signals laziness.
Yes. Instead, you say, I've reviewed the last meeting minutes and the project brief, but I wanted to make sure I haven't missed anything critical. Is there anything that's changed since last Thursday's update?
That phrasing is so sharp. You establish the baseline, you read the minutes, which proves you respect the process. Then you ask a highly targeted, specific question. What changed since Thursday?
And when they answer, let's say they tell you the client moved the delivery date up by a week, you simply reply, got it. Thank you for the update. I'll adjust my section of the timeline accordingly.
Clean, efficient, professional. You gathered your context without wasting a single minute.
Let's examine a scenario regarding asking for clarification. This is where many non-native speakers freeze up.
Imagine you are in a meeting. Your department manager has just finished explaining a complex new process for client onboarding, and you don't fully understand the approval workflow.
The instinct is either to stay quiet and panic later, or to vaguely say, I don't get it.
Instead, you structure your question. You could say, thank you for walking us through that. When you mention the approval workflow, could you clarify who is the final sign-off before we send the document to the client? Is that always the team lead, or does it depend on the size of the project?
This scenario raises a crucial point about the German management style. Managers in Germany love precision.
They really do. They love when employees think systematically about the machinery of the business.
By asking specifically about the variables team lead versus project size, you demonstrate that you aren't just confused. You are actively analyzing the process.
When the manager clarifies the rule, you confirm it out loud to close the loop. So for our current project, that final sign-off would be you. I just want to make sure I follow the right process.
It sounds so confident. It shows you care about doing things strictly by the book, which we know they deeply appreciate.
Now let's pivot to a social scenario. Lunch networking.
Ah, the canteen.
Picture this. You sit down in the company canteen next to a senior developer you haven't spoken to before. If you're the new guy, your instinct might be to make small talk by asking where she lives, or if she has kids.
Stop. Pivot to the work.
You say, hi, I don't think we've officially met. I'm new on the analytics team. I saw your team is handling the user data reviews. How does that connect to the new analytics push we are doing?
Notice how that completely bypasses the awkwardness of prying into personal lives? You found a professional connection point.
The senior developer will likely respond by explaining the data overlap. From there, you can ask how long she's been with the company or what she finds most challenging about the data architecture.
In Germany, that is networking done right. You map out how your professional roles intersect before you ever try to map out each other's personal lives.
Let's do one more scenario, because this is the one that causes the most anxiety. The dreaded client misunderstanding via email.
The stakes are high here.
The client is unhappy. They think you delivered the wrong format. Your manager asks you to handle it. The emotional reaction is to get defensive or to apologize profusely.
Instead, you structure the empathy.
You're right. Dear Mr. Fisher, thank you for taking the time to share your feedback. I want to make sure we fully understand your concerns so we can address them effectively.
That opening is masterful. It is polite, it is empathetic, but it is highly structured.
It acknowledges the client's frustration without immediately admitting fault or getting defensive and starting an argument.
Then you state the core purpose of the email. If I understand correctly, the main issue is that the report format doesn't match what was originally discussed. Is that accurate?
Look at the mechanics of that sentence. You are distilling their emotional complaint into a clear, factual, objective statement and then asking for their confirmation.
No emotions, just facts. You are untangling the knot.
Finally, you propose a concrete solution. I'd like to schedule a short call, perhaps 20 to 30 minutes, to walk through your expectations in detail. I want to make sure the revised version meets your needs perfectly. Thank you for your patience. I look forward to speaking with you. Kind regards.
The email is a masterclass in German business communication.
It has a clear subject line. It features a formal salutation. It contains a statement of purpose.
It proposes a time-boxed solution, 20 to 30 minutes, showing respect for their schedule, and it ends with a professional sign-off.
It does not over-explain. It does not make elaborate excuses about internal server errors or tired employees. It simply takes the issue, neutralizes the emotion, and moves it forward toward a resolution.
It is so effective. Now, even armed with these scenarios and phrasing techniques, international professionals still stumble constantly.
Let's dig into the 5 common mistakes that trap expats in the German workplace. Mistake number 1. Direct translation from your first language. This is a massive, incredibly common trap.
Indeed. When your brain translates literally from a language with different cultural underpinnings like Arabic, Hindi, Spanish, or Mandarin, you often get phrasing that sounds very unnatural or even melodramatic in professional English.
Give us an example.
For example, an Arabic influence translation, rooted in a culture that values deep, expressive hospitality and commitment, might be, "I will come to the meeting without fail, always."
Right, because in Arabic, emphasizing the commitment with multiple absolute words is a beautiful sign of deep respect.
But in the dry, functional world of professional English in Frankfurt, it sounds almost theatrical.
A much more natural, culturally appropriate phrase is simply, "I'll make sure to attend every meeting." It delivers the commitment without the dramatic flair.
There are also traps influenced by the German language itself, which even native German speakers fall into when speaking English.
You will hear this everywhere. A classic one is saying, "I make the presentation until Friday."
In German, the preposition bis can mean both until or by. But in English, there is a strict difference. You must say, "I'll have the presentation ready by Friday."
If you say until Friday, it sounds like you'll be continuously making the presentation every minute of the day until Friday arrives.
Pay close attention to prepositions. They are the hinges of the sentence, and usually where direct translations break down.
Mistake 2. Mixing formal and informal English. You see this all the time, especially as companies adopt modern tech tools.
People use "hey lol" in a formal email to a client director, or conversely, they use overly stiff, robotic Shakespearean language in a casual Slack channel with their immediate team.
You have to read the room. If it's a Slack chat with your peers, hey, just finish the mock-ups, let me know what you think is perfect.
In an email to an external stakeholder, keep it formal and structured.
Mistake 3 is one I see constantly, and it breaks my heart a little. Over-apologizing.
Non-native speakers often compensate for their linguistic insecurity by apologizing for simply existing in the space.
They start every interaction with, "I'm so sorry to bother you. I know you were busy. I'm really sorry, but I just had a small question. Sorry if this is a bad time."
Oh, I have such a vivid analogy for this.
What is it?
Over-apologizing is like walking into a room backwards. You are undermining your own presence before you even open your mouth to speak. You are subverting your own professional authority.
You aren't bothering anyone. You are doing your job. If you have a question about the budget, you need the answer to do your job for the company.
Instead of apologizing for doing your job, just be confident and polite. "Hi, Sarah. Quick question when you have a moment. Could you confirm the deadline for the proposal?"
The image of walking into a room backwards perfectly captures the self-defeating nature of the habit. You are asking permission to exist.
Stop doing that.
Mistake 4 is vague emails. As we have discussed extensively, Germans despise vagueness.
If you write to a colleague, "I'll send you the thing we discussed as soon as I can," you are practically inducing anxiety for the recipient.
Because they can't put "as soon as I can" into their calendar. They can't plan their own workflow around a mystery.
You need to state accurately what you are sending, when it will arrive, and who is responsible. "I'll send you the finalized budget summary by Thursday at 3 p.m.
Boom. Done. Everyone can plan.
And then we reach mistake 5. This might be the most lethal cultural mistake of all in an engineering or data-driven environment.
Or not.
Oh no, I have done the nod. We have all done the nod. I can feel the panic just thinking about it.
You are in a meeting. The language is flying fast. Maybe they switch to rapid-fire German, or they're using heavy English jargon you don't know. You lose track. The manager looks directly at you, and you just nod.
You smile. You say yes. You agree to a timeline or a technical spec that you absolutely did not understand.
It is terrifying because you are essentially signing a blank check with your professional reputation.
If you nod in a German project meeting, they assume you have fully comprehended the technical specifications and legally or professionally agree to execute them.
When it later turns out you didn't understand the assignment, the fallout is severe.
In this culture, they will not judge you for stopping the meeting to ask a clarifying question. They respect questions.
But they will absolutely, ruthlessly judge you for nodding when you shouldn't have. It is viewed as a breach of trust.
So teach us the protective phrasing. When the panic sets in, how do we stop the nod and save ourselves?
You take a breath, you pause the conversation, and you say, just to make sure I've understood correctly, are you saying that the database needs to migrate before the front-end update?
Or could you clarify what you mean by that specific term? I want to make sure I have the exact right picture before we proceed.
It shows active listening and a commitment to accuracy, which is the highest compliment you can pay a German colleague.
Before we completely leave the trenches of daily communication, let's touch on two quick pronunciation nuances that trip people up constantly.
First, the word colleagues.
Yes, the natural correct pronunciation is collegos. Many non-native speakers reading the word on paper overpronounce the ending and say collegio or colleague.
It is a subtle shift, but mastering the soft ending of collegius smooths out your spoken English significantly and makes you sound much more comfortable.
And the word schedule. This is a funny one because it depends entirely on the company's preferred English variant.
If you're working for an American multinational with an office in Munich, it's CHDU.
If you are working for a British firm or a traditional German company that leans toward British English, it's SAJU. Both are perfectly fine. Just pick the one your specific workplace uses and stick to it consistently.
Which brings us to a critical juncture in our discussion. We have unpacked the lexicon, the cultural rules, the intense scenarios, and the severe mistakes.
It is entirely normal, having absorbed all of this information, for a listener to feel a profound sense of overwhelming weight.
Totally. I'm overwhelmed just talking about it. You're sitting there thinking, how am I going to remember not to nod while actively maintaining my mental firewall, while correctly using the word bandwidth, while desperately trying not to translate idioms from my mother tongue?
It feels impossible.
So, we need to transition away from the technical rules and focus on the psychological armor you need to survive and thrive. Let's talk about mindset, mastery, and the true power of your accent.
It is essential before we do anything else to simply acknowledge the sheer bravery of the expat professional.
Let's really pause and honor that for a second. Think about what it takes to do this. You pack up your life, you move across borders, you leave your family, your friends, and your entire support network.
You deal with the nightmare of German bureaucracy and visas.
And then you attempt to build a high-level career in a country where the street language isn't your own and the complex working language is a second or third language for you.
That requires staggering courage.
It truly does. And yet, despite that courage, so many expats suffer from crushing imposter syndrome.
They sit in meetings surrounded by native English speakers or fluent Germans, and they view their non-native status as a defect. They view their accent as a lack of intelligence.
But if we flip the script on this, we see the empirical reality. Your accent is not a weakness. It is empirical proof of a multilingual mind.
Wait, let me just stop you there and repeat that because that is so profound. Empirical proof of a multilingual mind.
That completely changes the narrative.
We usually treat accents as a penalty deduction on our intelligence score, but you're saying it's a badge of honor.
Without a doubt. Think about it logically. Many native English speakers only speak one language. They have only ever navigated the world through one linguistic lens.
You, however, are navigating highly complex technical professional concepts across vast linguistic barriers.
You carry multiple cultures, multiple syntaxes, and multiple ways of solving problems in your voice.
In a modern international German workplace, which survives on global export, that diversity of thought is a vital asset.
You approach problems differently because your brain is literally wired by a different primary language. You bring fresh, lateral perspectives to stagnant processes.
I love that. You shouldn't apologize for your accent. You should wield it. It shows you have grit. It shows you have a brain capable of immense adaptation.
So, if we know we have the right mindset, how do we build the physical confidence to wield it? Let's talk about integrated practice. Not just a list of tips, but a holistic way of adapting your life.
Let's start with shadowing. This means finding a podcast or a TED Talk in professional English and repeating the audio out loud to learn the rhythm.
Yes, carefully mirroring the tone, the pauses, and the pronunciation of the speaker.
Now, I have to push back a little here. Does shadowing actually work, or does it just feel like you're playing an actor in a high school play?
I feel like if I stand in my living room repeating lines from a podcast, I'm just parroting someone else without actually thinking about the words.
Yeah, that is a very common objection, but it fundamentally misunderstands the physiological nature of language. Speaking a language is not just a mental exercise happening in your brain, it is a deeply physical one.
Your jaw, your tongue, and your vocal cords have muscle memory adapted to your mother tongue.
Shadowing builds new muscular memory. When you parrot that rhythm repeatedly, you physically train your facial muscles and vocal cords to produce those specific English sounds effortlessly.
Over time, it turns conscious, exhausting mental translation into physical instinct. You no longer think about how to form the sound. Your muscles simply know the physical rhythm of the phrase.
Wow, so it's like an athlete running drills, it's physical training.
Another vital habit is keeping a vocabulary journal. Every time you hear a new phrase in a meeting, like stakeholder alignment or bandwidth, you write it down with its specific meaning in 2 example sentences and review it weekly.
It takes the language out of the abstract air and puts it into your personal, concrete database. And that ties right into practicing out loud.
Thinking in English is wonderful, but speaking out loud is the crucible where real fluency is forged.
Talk to the mirror. Record voice memos of yourself, summarizing your day or practicing your project update.
The gap between what you can comprehend when you listen and what you can articulate when you speak only closes through the physical act of vocalization.
Which naturally leads to embracing discomfort. Because practicing makes you feel silly, and speaking up in a meeting makes you feel terrified.
When you feel your heart racing before you speak up in a meeting, you must recognize that nervousness not as a biological signal to stay quiet, but as the physical sensation of growth.
Discomfort is the friction of learning. If you are comfortable, you are not adapting. Push through it.
The more you speak through the anxiety, the faster the baseline of that anxiety dissipates.
And finally, finding community. You do not have to do this alone. Germany has language exchange meetups, massive international professional groups on LinkedIn, expat networks in every major city.
Find the people who are in the trenches with you. Swap battle stories. Laugh about the time you used the wrong preposition and accidentally told your boss you're going to live in the office till Friday.
Community normalizes the struggle. It reminds you that every single successful international professional in Germany, from the CEO down to the junior developer, went through the exact same phase of linguistic exhaustion and cultural clumsiness.
So let's bring this all together. What a massive journey we've been on today. We started by mastering the calm, reassuring morning greetings, shifting our energy to match the room.
We decoded the highly specific project vocabulary, the bandwidths, the bottlenecks, the action items, and the buffers.
We embraced the core tenets of German workplace culture, the deep respect shown through strict punctuality, the ultimate efficiency of direct, transparent communication, and the impenetrable firewall of work-life boundaries.
We navigated the traps of direct translation and learned how to stop the deadly habit of the nod.
And most importantly, we realized that an accent is not a liability, but empirical proof of a highly capable, multilingual mind.
It is a comprehensive toolkit for survival and success.
But before we finish, if we connect everything we have discussed to the bigger picture, it raises an important, almost philosophical question for anyone moving to Germany.
What's that?
We know that the language we speak and the strict cultural rules we adopt to speak it actually shape the physical pathways of how we think.
Oh, absolutely.
So, how might adopting this highly efficient, boundary-respecting German communication style subtly change your own personality outside of the office over time?
That is a brilliant point. As you spend years operating with this intense level of directness and clarity at work, will you find yourself becoming more direct with your friends and family back home?
Will you start implementing personal boundaries with the same rigorous efficiency you use for your professional ones?
That is such a fascinating thought to mull over. Does the culture shape the professional, or does the professional eventually take the culture home and change who they are?
Something for you to explore on your own as you begin this exciting chapter. If you found value in this deep dive, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel.